Jericho missile. Jericho I. Jericho I was first publicly identified as an operational short-range ballistic missile system in late 1971. It was 13.4 meters 44 ft long, 0.8 m2 ft 7 in diameter, weighing 6.5 tons 14,000 lb. It had a range of 500 km 310 mi and a CP of 1000 m 3300 ft, and it could carry a payload estimated at 400 kilograms 880 lb. It was intended to carry a nuclear warhead. Due to Israel's ambiguity over its nuclear weapons program, the missile is classified as a ballistic missile. Initial development was in conjunction with France. Dassault provided various missile systems from 1963, and a type designated in D-620 was test-fired in 1965. French cooperation was halted by an arms embargo in January 1968, though 12 missiles had been delivered from France. Work was continued by IAI at the Beit Zachariah facility, and the program cost almost $1 billion up to 1980, incorporating some U.S. technology. Despite some initial problems with its guidance systems, it is believed that around 100 missiles of this type were produced. In 1969, Israel agreed with the United States that Jericho missiles would not be used as strategic missiles with nuclear warheads until at least 1972. During the October 1973 Yom Kippur War, with the initial surprise breakthroughs on both northern and southern borders by Arab armies, the alarmed Defense Minister Moshe Dayan told Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir that this is the end of the Third Temple. He was warning of Israel's impending total defeat, but temple was also the code word for nuclear weapons. Dayan again raised the nuclear topic in a cabinet meeting, warning that the country was approaching a point of last resort. That nightmare authorized the assembly of 13 nuclear weapon physics packages to arm Jericho I missiles at Estat Mikka Air Base and F-4 aircraft at Tel Nof Air Base for use against Syrian and Egyptian targets. The range on the Jericho I is sufficient to strike major cities such as Damascus and Cairo from secured launch locations. They would be used if absolutely necessary to prevent total defeat, but the preparation was done in an easily detectable way, likely as a signal to the U.S. U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger learned of the nuclear alert on the morning of October 9. That day, in keeping with his deal and warning that prevented a preemptive Israeli attack on gathering Arab armies, President Nixon ordered the commencement of Operation Nickel Grass, a U.S. airlift to replace all of Israel's material losses. Anecdotal evidence suggests that Kissinger told Sadat that the reason for the U.S. airlift was that the Israelis were close to going nuclear. It is believed that all Jericho I missiles were taken out of service in the 1990s and replaced with the longer-range Jericho II. The Jericho I missiles were housed in Zakaria, located southeast of Tel Aviv and stationed in caves. Jericho Roman II. The Jericho Roman II Y-3 is a solid-fuel, two-stage long-range ballistic missile system and a follow-on from the Jericho I project. As many as 90 Jericho II missiles are currently based in caves near Zakaria Estat Mikka Air Base, southeast of Tel Aviv. A request from Israel for 1,100-mile 1770 km range Pershing Roman II medium-range ballistic missiles was rejected by the United States for inclusion as part of a military assistance incentive. Jericho Roman II development began in 1977, and by 1986, there were reports of test firings. According to Missile Threat, a project of the George C. Marshall Institute, there is evidence the Jericho Roman II originated as a joint Israeli-Iranian project, cooperation that ended with the loss of friendly relations after the 1979 Islamist revolution overthrew the Shah's rule. There was a series of test launches into the Mediterranean from 1987 to 1992, the longest at around 1,300 km, mostly from the facility at Palmachim, south of Tel Aviv. Janes reports that a test launch of 1,400 km is believed to have taken place from South Africa's Overberg test range in June 1989. The Jericho Roman II is 14.0 m long and 1.56 m wide, with a reported launch weight of 26,000 kg, although an alternative launch weight of 21,935 kg has been suggested. It has a 1,000 kg payload, capable of carrying a considerable amount of high explosives or a 1 megaton yield nuclear warhead. It uses a two-stage, solid propellant engine with a separating warhead. The missile can be launched from a silo, a railroad flat car, or a mobile vehicle. This gives it the ability to be hidden, moved quickly, or kept in a hardened silo, largely ensuring survival against any attack. It has an active radar homing terminal guidance system similar to that of the Pershing Roman II for very accurate strikes. The Jericho Roman II forms the basis of the three-stage, 23-ton Shavit Next satellite launcher, first launched in 1988 from Pomecham. From the performance of Shavit, it has been estimated that as a ballistic missile it has a maximum range of about 7,800 km with a 500 kg payload. The Jericho Roman II as an available Israeli counterattack option to Iraqi missile bombardment in the 1991 Gulf War is disputed. Janes at the time believed that Jericho Roman II entered service in 1989. Researcher Seth Karas claims that, according to an Israeli source, the decision to operationally deploy the Jericho II was only made after 1994, several years after the Scud attacks had ended and a ceasefire and disarmament regime were in place. Raytheon Technologies, quoting Soviet intelligence archives, showed them believing the Jericho II to have been fully developed weapon in 1989, but did not indicate when it was available for deployment. Investigators for the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace accessed commercial satellite images of the S.Mika airbase near Zakaria, a suspected Jericho missile base. Comparison shows expansion between 1989 and 1993 of the type that would accommodate suspected Jericho Roman II launchers and missiles. Such an expansion would be more consistent with a post-1991 deployment chronology. Jericho Roman III. It is believed that the Jericho Roman III Y-4 is a nuclear-armed ICBM that entered service in 2011. The Jericho Roman III is believed to have 2 or 3 stages, using solid propellant and having a payload of 1,000 to 1,300 kg. The payload could be a single 750 kg 150-400 kiloton nuclear warhead or 2 or 3 low-yield MIRV warheads. It has an estimated launch weight of 30,000 kg and a length of 15.5 m with a width of 1.56 m. It may be similar to an upgraded and redesigned Shavit space launch vehicle produced by Israel Aerospace Industries. It probably has longer first and second stage motors. It is estimated by Missile Threat Combat it has a range of 4,800 to 6,500 and 192 to 4,038 miles, though a 2004 missile proliferation survey by the Congressional Research Service put its possible maximum range at 11,500 km. Missile range is inversely proportional. According to an official report that was submitted to the U.S. Congress in 2004, it may be that with a payload of 1,000 kg, the Jericho Roman III gives Israel nuclear strike capabilities within the entire Middle East, Africa, Europe, Asia, and almost all parts of North America, as well as large parts of South America and North Oceania. Missile threat reports. The range of the Jericho III also provides an extremely high impact speed for nearby targets, enabling it to avoid any anti-ballistic missile ABM defenses that may develop in the immediate region. On 17 January 2008, Israel test-fired a multi-stage ballistic missile believed to be of the Jericho Roman III type, reportedly capable of carrying conventional or non-conventional warheads. On 2 November 2011, Israel successfully test-fired a missile believed to be an upgraded version of the Jericho Roman III at Pomecham, The long trail of smoke was seen throughout central Israel. Israel's intercontinental ballistic missile launchers are believed to be buried so deeply that they would survive a first-strike nuclear attack. After a successful missile test launch conducted in early 2008, Israeli weapons expert General Itzhak Ben Israel, former chairman of the Israeli Space Agency at the Ministry of Science, said everybody can do the mathematics. We can reach with a rocket engine to every point in the world, thus appearing to confirm Israel's new capability. Israeli Ministry of Defense officials said that the 2008 test launch represented a dramatic leap in Israel's missile technologies. After a further test in 2013, Alon Ben David published this opinion in an article in Aviation Week on the missile's range and throw weight. Reportedly, Israel's Jericho I intermediate-range ballistic missile is capable of carrying a 1,000 kg 2204 lb warhead more than 5,000 km. Further tests conducted in July 2013 could have been for the Jericho III or possibly the Jericho III missile, a follow-up missile believed to have a new motor. South African RSA series. The Jericho Roman II/Shavit SLV was also licensed produced in the Republic of South Africa as the RSA series of space launch vehicles and ballistic missiles. The RS Aminus III was produced by the Houtec, a discontinued division of Denel Company at Grabo, 30 km east of Cape Town. Test launches were made from Overberg Test Range near Bredasdorp, 200 km east of Cape Town. Rui Els was where the engine test facilities were located. Development continued even after South African renunciation of its nuclear weapons for use as a commercial satellite launcher. Development actually reached its height in 1992, a year after nuclear renunciation, with 50-70 companies involved, employing 1,300–1,500 people from the public and private sector. A much heavier ICBM or space launch vehicle. The RS Aminus IV with a first stage in the Peacekeeper ICBM class but with Jericho II/RS Aminus III upper stage components was in development. The RS Aminus II was a local copy of the Jericho Roman II ballistic missile, and the RS Aminus I was a local copy of the Jericho Roman II second stage. The missiles were to be based on the RS Aminus III and RS Aminus IV launchers that had already been built and tested for the South African space program. According to L.J. Venter, author of How South Africa Built 6 Atom Bombs, these missiles were incompatible with the available large South African nuclear warheads. He claims that the RSA series being designed for a 340 kg payload would suggest a warhead of some 200 kg, well beyond SA best efforts of the late 1980s. Venter's analysis is that the RSA series was intended to display a credible delivery system combined with a separate nuclear test in a final diplomatic appeal to the world powers in an emergency, even though they were never intended. 3 rockets had already been launched into suborbital trajectories in the late 1980s in support of development of the RS Aminus III launched GreenSat orbital management system for commercial satellite application. Following the decision in 1989 to cancel the nuclear weapons program, the missile programs were allowed to continue until 1992, when military funding ended, and all ballistic missile work was stopped by mid-1993. In order to join the missile technology control regime, the government had to allow U.S. supervision of the destruction of key facilities applicable to both the long-range missile and the space launch programs. In June 1994, the RS Aminus III/RS Aminus IV South African satellite launcher program was cancelled.